to happen. So with that, I wanted to introduce Laura Rashane. And Laura is very well known to us from our Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. She is going to be delivering, and I noticed the word final, Accelerated Improvement Plan Monitoring Report. As you well know, we were notified in July that the DESE has deemed us free of state monitoring at the district level. Laura, I do want to say, has been a very important, critical friend, and those two words are important in helping us achieve this milestone. She has been not only patient, answered all our questions, and has really asked the right questions that allows us to be able to be at this juncture. And with that, I am delighted that she's here tonight. This will be her last presentation, but we're very happy and we'll continue our relationship on many different levels. Laura?
Thank you. Wonderful to see all of you. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Thanks very much for having me tonight. What I'd like to do is to give a brief summary of the district's work this quarter under the AIP, and also discuss the district's release from AIP monitoring. And I'm, of course, happy to answer any questions at the conclusion. So, by way of introduction, this reporting period is April through June of this year. The report that you have in front of you is based on Dr. Pandicio's monitoring. Tom was unable to come tonight. He had another obligation, so he sent his regrets. But the monitoring report is very much based on his interaction and his observations of the district during this reporting period. Some of the major themes that he observed in the district during this quarter related to the implementation of the AIP. First of all, a real continuation of progress in terms of planning very carefully, very strategically, and very carefully looking at data to figure out what's working and what's not. A very relentless focus on outcomes. So the plan, and this is similar to previous quarters, the plan is not just used as a checklist or let's just get this done, get that done, but real focus on what are the actual results of all the work that's being done. The monitor also noticed a real increase in teacher leadership, principal leadership throughout the year, but particularly this quarter. When you look at things like PD, the middle school redesign initiative, and others, it's very clear that many people own this AIP, not just the central office, but that it's really become the work of the district. And that's something you've probably heard us say before, and it was really evident again during this quarter. So, as Dr. Durkin mentioned, also during this quarter, the district was notified that once the department receives New Bedford's 2017-18 Accelerated Improvement Plan, the department will no longer monitor the district's AIP implementation. And I will say more about this in a few minutes. Okay. So just a brief overview again of the work this quarter related to the AIP. As you know, Objective 1 in the AIP focuses on implementing rigorous standards and monitoring student progress toward mastering those standards. So, great deal of work under this objective. A few examples are learning walks that continued during this quarter with very consistent, clear expectations, actionable feedback, and follow-up to make sure that feedback is really playing out in the classroom. There was end-of-year data, both Galileo and STAR assessments in ELA and math, some very promising trends in that end-of-year data. This year, there were school-based meetings, data defense meetings that the monitor was able to observe and found to be very effective discussions about student achievement data at each school and a reflection about the particular instructional practices that were reflected by that data. And a collaborative development of science and social studies curriculum continued during this quarter as well. Strategic Objective 2 focuses on systems to support students' needs. So under this objective, implementation included a continuation of the PBIS model, which led to some improvement in behavior data, both reported behavioral incidents as well as suspensions at the middle schools. So that was good news. Building-based support teams continued to evolve. There were some promising results there, some preliminary evidence showing that students were in many cases able to make progress without being referred to special education because they were provided with targeted interventions and supports that they needed in order to succeed. Also incredibly important under this objective is the continued focus on English learners. One of the things that the monitor noted during this quarter was a measurable increase in the types of instructional strategies that help English learners achieve. So there were pre and post observations that showed real growth in a lot of important instructional strategies in that area. And objectives 3 and 4 relate to professional development and creating a shared vision for the district. So under these objectives, some examples of the work that was accomplished include school-specific professional development that's tied to school improvement plans with follow-up observations. So again, that key piece is the follow-up to make sure that there was an impact from the professional development in the classroom. Principals continued to take on more of a leadership role and more ownership, both in terms of leading professional development at their schools and with peers. And the district focused on providing meaningful professional development, professional support and growth opportunities to both new teachers and veteran teachers through the mentoring program as well as the Aspiring Administrators program. And the district also continues to find innovative ways to track data in order to analyze and improve efforts to engage students' families. So overall, this quarter, New Bedford really continued to use the EIP in order to operate more effectively, to guide improvement strategies at the school and district levels. As Tom noted in the report, the district has really shaped the EIP to serve its needs, and in the meantime, in the process, has really strengthened its capacity to do this work and to bring about improvement. The district's work this quarter represented a continuation of progress that it's made in the last few years in using a strategic plan to guide its work. This progress stands in marked contrast to the concerns that were raised in the department's 2011 district review report. And as you know, that report was the impetus for the district taking on the AIP initiative. That was also what sparked the beginning of district monitoring from the department. So I think it's important to step back, think about what was in that 2011 report, and really think about what has changed since that time. I know that many of us at the department went back to that report as this current monitoring report was being developed, and it's very clear that that last report 6 years ago described an extremely different district than you have now. So some examples of what the team found in 2011. The central office did not have adequate leadership and capacity to improve the educational system. Also in that same report, principals had to work independently. They did not have enough supervision or guidance. Teachers did not have the support they needed or the information they needed to know what to teach. They did not have common planning time or guidance in providing high quality instruction. The district had limited ability to collect data and to use that data to reflect about progress. Professional development was unfocused and was not coordinated. There was little evidence that the district was recognizing problematic data such as dropout, graduation rates, attendance rates, and little evidence that the district was addressing those in effective ways. Also importantly, there was little evidence that budget decisions had any relation to what students needed. So when I look at those, having been in this role working with district monitors over the last several years, I'm really struck, and I hope you are as well, with what an incredible difference we can see today in this district. Every single one of those points, we're seeing things operate much more effectively. We're seeing decisions made in the best interest of kids. Resources are being used more effectively, much more coordination, supervision, support. I can't emphasize this enough. There's been a huge step forward here, and I hope that you'll really be proud of that progress. So basically, that progress indicates to the department that the systems are in place to continue improvement. And so that's why after we receive the next AIP, we will not be monitoring the district's AIP implementation going forward. ESE will continue working closely with the district. You will continue receiving updates about Parker Elementary as a level 5 school. The department will continue working closely with the district, focusing on the level 4 schools. And of course, we have a number of different resources, a lot of technical assistance that we hope the district will continue to take advantage of. So you'll still be very involved with the department, but just not through AIP monitoring. Okay. So this report is a little bit different than previous monitoring reports. The next steps, the recommendations, typically what those focus on is sort of the next quarter, but these next steps really refer to improvement work going forward. So I hope these will be helpful and sort of inform the district's focus as you move forward after this monitoring ends. First of all, we recommend that in order to maintain the district's momentum and progress, that this collaborative and structured approach to planning continue. So in future years, it might not be called an AIP, it might not look exactly the way the plan looks now, but the strategies the district is using are working. So they really should continue. The ownership of the planning by multiple people in the district, the very clear benchmarks and times throughout the year when data is looked at and analyzed and changes are made, that approach is very important to continue. Next, we recommend continuing this very delicate balance between support and accountability for all educators. So just like we do for students, we have very high expectations for them, but we make sure that we provide the support they need in order to achieve them. It's not always an easy balance to strike, but it's something to always be striving for. We've noted in the past that the district does not take a one-size-fits-all approach to supporting schools, and so we urge the district to continue this differentiated approach to helping schools in the way that they need them. Related to that, thinking about the middle school redesign work, we know that there's been a great deal of thought and discussion and planning related to culture and climate at the middle schools, which is obviously critical. We also urge the district to consider ways that instruction will change. So what actually will change in that work that teachers are doing with students around content. Also, the district has paid very close attention to what the definition is of high quality instruction, what to look for in learning walks, what principals should be looking for in classrooms. As the district improves, as instruction overall improves, that definition might evolve. So we urge the district to continue looking at all different types of data, triangulating that data, and thinking about ways to continue to push educators to push their practice and get better and better, go from good to great. Of course, we would urge the district to continue to reflect on what resources are necessary to sustain progress, and to continue to communicate with the community, educators, about progress and about challenges related to the plan, related to improvement. And finally, as I mentioned, we hope the district will continue to draw on the support and resources that the department has to offer. So with that, I will be happy to take any questions, and then we will wrap up.
Well, first of all, let me say, Laura, that I hope you come back and visit us. The work you've done here has been hugely helpful, both to the administration and to the school committee, and you've done it with such care and diligence and thoughtfulness that it's enabled us to understand better when we're on the right track and when we're not, and it is, I think you're right, it is very encouraging to hear what for you to go back and look at the 2011 report, which many of us remember, and say, it's just a very, very different place, and indeed it is, even though there's still plenty of work to be done. But you guys have done this very thoughtfully, and Tom along the way and many others along the way have been great partners. So I really want to thank you on behalf of the district. Yeah, there is a lot of work to be done. I think, and there's probably the recommendations are useful, and I think some of these can be summed up in terms of keep doing what you're doing in some places you need more resources, some places you need to continue to evolve, which are all none of those things are easy to accomplish, but I think it's at least encouraging to hear those things, and we will keep the pedal to the metal. I do think, and I'm not necessarily looking for a response from you on this, but sometimes it's probably worth my saying this publicly, that sometimes so we've benefited from the state's monitoring in many ways. At the same time, sometimes the state's goals are somewhat different from ours, right? So I've often lamented the fact that the state doesn't have sort of a comprehensive urban policy, right? What the state mandates in some place causes a problem in other places. What it mandates in finance causes a problem in education, and what they mandate in housing causes a problem, and so forth. So much longer discussion for another day, but in terms of our city's strategic goals, among them is that we have a school system that not only enables kids to score well on standardized tests, that has its place for sure, and to have the kind of instruction that supports that, but we also want a school system that folks have confidence in, so that we do continue to have a problem with people voting with their feet, whether they're parents who send their kids to the vocational school or parents in a Cushionate who are still struggling with the idea of sending their kids to New Bedford High School. Along the way, are there things that you would highlight? What can you, this doesn't show up in the four corners of your report, but I wouldn't expect it to, but are there certain things that you would say that we need to be doing to build the confidence of parents? What you're saying is true, but a lot of folks will listen to it and say, well, that sounds right, but I'm still not convinced. We still have this problem with the gap between perception and reality. Can you speak to that, given what you've observed over the last few years?
That's a good question. I guess I would say a couple of things. One is absolutely one of the messages I hope you will take away is to stay the course. And I think sort of taking a unified approach, as you have, is a critical piece of that. And I think that's one reason that we included the piece about communicating progress and challenges in that list of next steps. I think that it's incredibly important to continue really spreading the word about the good things that are happening in the district. I think changes in culture take time, and we've seen it begin to happen here. And I think there's going to be sort of a delayed response to seeing that in the wider community. So I don't think I have a silver bullet for you here, but I would say that speaking from the state perspective, this is certainly a place that has made a ton of progress and is on track to continue that.
Good. All right. Well, we appreciate that. Go ahead, Larry.
Laura, thank you for the hard work of the monitoring for the time that you've been working with Tom and others. Is it safe to say that the state is confident that the systems and the framework that's in place now regarding adequate support, at one time principals were working alone or independently without adequate direction and support to make accountability flourish, that there's a system now in place that's not contingent upon an individual? For example, we know principal is the leader of the building, but there are teachers there, support staff there, and there are community partners. To Dr. Durkin's credit, just about everybody has numerous community partners, which I think is very, very important. That it's not contingent upon that one person who may advance and move up in the district and then leave the school, and then 2 or 3 years later we say, what happened at that school?
Exactly.
Well, that person left. Is it embedded?
Absolutely. That's a great question, and that's a great way to frame it. Yes, absolutely. So the ratings that I typically go over on each of these reports, that's one of the reasons that we have those ratings, is because we want to look at not just did the district meet the benchmark this quarter, but do we think that if we walked away, the district would continue to meet those benchmarks, or the district would see that the benchmark isn't being achieved and would make the changes necessary? And the end of monitoring, the release from AIP monitoring, is a signal that yes, we believe those systems are embedded, they're sustainable. The the district needs to continue making them more and more sustainable, continue this process of including more and more people, having more and more people at different levels owning the work. But we've seen enough of that to have the confidence that this is going to continue. So I think you make a great point. It's not, and I certainly don't mean to sugarcoat it here. There's clearly a ton of work that needs to happen before every New Bedford student is getting the education they deserve. I don't think anyone here would disagree with that. But what we're saying is we believe, we have strong confidence that the district has systems in place so the district knows what the issues are, has the systems in place to address those needs. So you don't need Tom and I to stand here and tell you about it because the district has systems in place to figure that out.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Durkin, a question for you in that same area. How did you and your team provide the adequate support and direction to improve accountability while still maintaining for that principal, that leader of that building, allowing them the flexibility to be creative and be different from the other principals?
I think this is about a team effort, and I am more than blessed with the administrative team I have. As you know, it is a mixed group of people, but the key is having the will and the skill and balancing both. So the will to really want to move this district to the heights it deserves was paramount. And I don't know any principal who is on my staff new, the ones who are newly appointed tonight, as well as the ones who have been here for many, many years, who don't have the will to want to do that. But coupling that with the skill, principals needed to reinvent their work in New Bedford. And I say that in a respectful way. It wasn't that people weren't working hard, but they were many times on an island and many times having to figure it out themselves. That's not any dispersions on previous administrations, but we have learned that the best part about this is really working together and the strategies with that. The other part about the support is the balance, and I've spoken about this before at the school committee meeting, the balance between pressure and support. If you have too much support and not the reality that we're a level 4 district and we need to demonstrate results, then you're not going to have the sense of urgency to be able to improve, or it can wait to another day. Unfortunately, to deem the district level 4 close to receivership, that created a sense of urgency and in some ways created a sense of panic. That's not effective when you have too much pressure. So I believe my team and I have really worked on what are both. What is the pressure and support, and really redefining what central office, the role of central office is, which is about to give support to schools. We only exist to make schools better, not to have a reporting line that you can't do this, you can do that. To really listen and learn what are the unique issues in schools, but at the same time have a standard that every school would have. And we definitely need more, but I believe the principals know their buildings. For those who are new, they're getting to know their buildings. I also believe that they have led this work in a way that tells us what do we need to be doing better. So tomorrow we have a Leadership Institute, and we are starting with all the trends that I learned from the superintendent chat meetings I did every school in the spring. And what are some of the things teachers are saying that we need to do better? What are the things we're doing well? And how can principals now, with me, define that better for teachers so that we are really responding to needs? So that's a long answer to a question, but I do believe it's not about one person. It's not about just the superintendent, and you framed it very well, Dr. Finnerty. It's not about just the principal. It's about people owning the work and buying into that we're part of something bigger than each of our individual selves.
That balance is certainly very difficult and very delicate. You need to provide the support for the things that the teachers and the principals and support staff are going to need, but there is that pressure because of where we are and where we have been. We have a new principal at Renaissance now. We have 3 new middle schools where we're going to be expecting a lot of creativity and autonomies to be exercised. And that balance is so precarious that we don't want to tighten people up so that it's cookie cutter from the central office, because then when their changes are made in the principalship or wherever, things revert back. Thank you.
I just wanted to add my, if you want to call it, support and really thankfulness for all of the teachers and the administration and principals throughout the entire district who really made this possible. I mean, it's good to have an outside perspective from a person who is not a part of the district to look over what we've been doing for the last 5 or 6 years and to really, you know, and summarize it, you know, because over this period of time, a number of us have been on the school committee and have really not, you know, made total recognition of the changes that have been made here and the progress that we have made. I look for the teachers and the staff to continue down that road, to continue doing what we really need to do to make sure that each and every child in this district really receives the education they deserve, and to make all of that possible. So again, I wanted to thank you for bringing that recognition to myself and to our district to say, hey, we're ready to take the next step. And we know there are other steps that need to be taken. We cannot sit where we are at the present moment and say, hey, okay, we've accomplished our goal. We have accomplished some goals, but there are a number of other goals that are still ahead of us that we need to work toward to make sure that those are in place. I like the coordination. That's the term that I think I keep on hearing of intercommunication, of coordination. I think that's what needs to happen, because all too often, I think what probably happened in the past is student was passed from grade to grade and maybe not a lot of communication between teachers to find out where that student may be at to where they need to go. And I think that communication is very critical. And also, I also want to note data, which I think is critical, is to really understand where we are with that data and where we need to go and how we need to get there. So I thank you for that, and I thank you for the teachers, mainly in our district. Appreciate it.
Josh?
Thanks. I just want to call it in. I think this is a really important milestone for the district to celebrate, and I thank you for your work. I do agree with you that we have a ton of work left to do. Nobody's satisfied with where we're at, and I think a lot of the issues identified in 2011 that mostly have been rectified now are sort of foundational core things that you'd expect a professional school department to do, like have a functioning financial system, a good budget, good HR practices, things like that. So as a school committee member, it's a relief to see that we've got those things in place, and now we can, frankly, sit up here sometimes and bicker about some of the things in the margins, you know, now that the main things are taken care of. So I think that's great, and while there's a lot to do, it's worthwhile to take a step back sometimes and just congratulate everybody on a job well done. I think there's probably not an employee in the district that didn't have some hand in this, from, you know, custodians, teachers, from everybody all the way up the chain to the superintendent, and even my colleagues on the school committee. I think we can appreciate the fact that this is a major milestone for us, in light of the fact that there's still a lot of work to do, but it's a great milestone. Laura, you'll be missed personally, but your reports, I gotta say, I might not miss them.
Okay, fair enough.
Thank you.
All right, Bruce.
And I know it's redundant, but sometimes redundancy is good. I also want to thank you, and also thank the fact that DESE has validated the effort of the superintendent or staff, the teachers, principals, and all the support staff in the district, and shows the confidence by removing the monitor. So I just want to applaud their efforts and thank you.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure speaking with all of you several times a year, and it's been honestly a real privilege to work with the district. So thank you all.
Yeah, thank you very much, Laura.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think it is, we touched on this in either the July or the June meeting, but it does bear repeating, as some of my colleagues have, that yeah, it is an important milestone. It's a validation that things really have changed. And as I said, a lot of us do remember that 2011 report as being a serious indictment of the district, and Josh hit the nail on the head. There were, in 2011, we had a school district that couldn't put its first foot forward, and now we've got the basics right. There's the foundation to build on, and so I really want to thank the administration and all the faculty and our partners at DESE for making it happen. Still lots of work ahead for sure, but, you know, now we're getting closer to a point where we can really start to build and to really shine. So that's our goal ahead. So thank you, Laura. Thank you. You can cut loose. Thank you. You're released. You're releasing us. We're releasing you now. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Durkin. Okay, so next up is the business office report. Actually, public comment. Do we have any?
No?